strong leadership to inspirationally leading others towards the future.
I think that's that's exactly what I was thinking. Is the
Well-
steadiness, but the leadership's shifting in some ways where instead of the younger generations wants an I
Yeah.
culture instead of D. And so, yeah.
And in my opinion, where that's coming from is from the universities
Yes.
and from the business culture. More and more, the marketplace is determining what's happening in our churches, which is why I personally find it very helpful in ministry to read carefully trusted marketplace sources like Harvard Business Review. That's just one of my favorite go-to places. I think I can formulate some opinions about where Asians are going in the next 10 years on the basis of what Harvard Business Review does in delineating what's going on in the marketplace and where the marketplace is going. Again, just Ron Shepard's opinion. Well, behind that are the things that are really kind of fun to talk about. There's 3 pages there that have some little boxes on them, D, I, S, and C. Now again, we have a behavioral style, and our awareness of ourselves and others is key to our effective coaching. Trust is essential in this relationship, so we want to be open and engaged in good relationship, with people. These boxes here help you understand in a summary way how people are, how to work with them, and how they react to you. So for those with a high I, the emphasis is on shaping the environment by overcoming opposition to accomplish results. So when push comes to shove, with a D, it does come to push or shove. Okay? That's their way of dealing with things if they're out of balance and not healthy. For an I, the influence is on shaping the environment by influencing or persuading others. It's kind of the salesperson. It's kind of talking people, into things. A high D can inappropriately use force. A high I can sell you something they shouldn't be selling you. They're good drug dealers. Okay? High S, the steadiness, the emphasis is on cooperating with others to carry out the task. Again, NAM is a high S culture. It's kind of, we know that if you did this differently, it'd be better for you, but it's better for all of us if we don't let you do what you want to do, because what might help you, it might not be good for everybody across the nation. And so it's kind of hard sometimes to bring about change in that, but the emphasis is on cooperation. And so it's more important to cooperate sometimes than to necessarily get everything done that the D or the I would like to see happen. And in the high C, the emphasis is on working conscientiously within existing circumstances to ensure quality and accuracy. It's more important this be done right sometimes rather than do something more important but not doing it right. Does that make sense?
So you want your accounting firm to be the culture of a
Yeah.
state?
Yeah, your bookkeeper needs to be a C. Your ministry assistant needs to be an S. Doesn't mean they can only be a C or only be an S, but it needs to be part of their characteristic in this sense.
How about your planters?
Well, depends who you talk to. There are those who believe that the church planter has to be an absolute high I. And that if you're not a high I, then we're not going to spend much time or energy or money with you.
Okay.
But that's not true, because it's not who you are, but it's what's God leading you to do. And you just got to be aware of that.
Like Gideon.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, it could be your team. I talked to somebody recently who's not that, and I said, well, who on your team is that?
Exactly.
So it is not that you have to be this certain person, but that with others you work for that common vision and purpose.
Right.
was going to say, and I was working until now, because once you started saying, this is who you are, your personality traits, not how you actually behave,
Right.
I had to change a lot.
Mm.
I didn't get it that way.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because I see things in myself, that's my tendency. But under the Holy Spirit, I don't behave that way now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I was like, no, this doesn't make sense, I need to fix everything.
So, I've interacted with things, with personality tools like this a lot over the
Mhm.
years. And something I've, as I went through seminary and some coaching and training I've done, another element that we need to be aware of, especially as we're, thinking and talking through these things with other people, is that a lot of times, certain cultures, because they value one personality trait over another, the people who are taking a test or discovering who they are will give answers that are not actually true.
Okay.
For example, in our, this may not be as true as it used to be, but I know there's a perception that women, should act a certain way in certain situations. So, I think maybe 15 years ago, if Kim had taken this personality test, D would have been a lot lower. Because she was taught that she shouldn't act a certain way. So she didn't value that about herself, and she, so that's something that needs to be thought of as well.
Yeah. Well, for example, Patty and I are native Californians. Our identity is Los Angeles Basin-based. That's our culture, our DNA, that's who we are. I get transferred to the corporation, don't like the church that we have been a part of, visit, attend, join, become volunteer youth directors at a Southern Baptist church. Fast forward to various kinds of things. I'm falling in love with Southern cultures, and Southern people as I'm traveling for the seminary, because I'm the development director for the school. I land in a church in San Diego that is a heavily Southern cultured Southern Baptist church, doing Southern things in a Southern way, and very Southern proud of it. And I'm going, dude, what they want me to do is to talk about tea parties and sewing circles. What they want me to do is this, that, and the other thing, but I'm a Californian, I want to reach the lost and unchurched people that are California and Mexico oriented. And so it was a real challenge for Patty and myself the first few years to how can we be true to ourselves and fit into this heavy culture that is dripping with Southernism. And we love Southerners. We've chosen to be Southern Baptists all our life, but we were immersed in something and were kind of pressed to fit into something that was just not who we really were. And these kinds of things, we want you to be self-aware. We want you to help your coachee to be self-aware and to deal with alignment kind of issues. Are you where you should be, and are you doing what you should be doing? Can you shape it so that you can be at peace with yourself? And that's part of what we do as coaches. Look at the next page and look how your identity, your traits can impact others. For example, if you're a high D and the other person that you're working with is a D, your tendency can be to over-control a situation if it limits their freedom. If they're an I, you're concerned for results without a motivational environment. You create tension for S's by not taking time to listen, prioritizing time over relationships. C, by being quick, but not thorough enough. So this is a very, very helpful page that regardless of who you are, this shows you what to look out for in the person that you have a coaching relationship with. This is very, very helpful. And it's helpful for even you guys working together with one another as an I to an I. Look at what an I does to an I. Your desire for visibility and influence creates tension with the other I, especially if it limits their influence. So it's very, very important that you guys stay really tight with one another, be open in your communication with one another, because stop communicating, you're gonna get, you have a tendency, based on this information, you get a little crossways with one another. And the same thing is true with the person that you're coaching. So look at who you are and come to an understanding of who the person is that you're coaching and how you tend to bring things out in them and create tension. You want to lower the tension as a coach so that the defenses are down and there's the authenticity and there's the openness. So just again, be aware of yourself and become aware of your coachee. And it's going to be a very, very helpful tool. Help you in your marriage. It'll help you in your marriage today. It'll help you in your own leadership council. Once you learn this kind of stuff and become comfortable with it, you can kind of figure out who's on your leadership council and why members on your own leadership council are responding to you the way they do. Okay? So I can look at my own staff team that when I'm functioning like a D and Gary's functioning like a D, I can see how I create tension for him. Or when he's functioning like an I can see the tension that I create for him. You know, I want to know how are we going to pay for this. I want to know, let's do this, but how are we going to keep it going? You know, it's important that we not just make decisions, but that we support decisions. With Brian, I have to be intentional when I'm functioning as a D. I can create tension for him by being quick, but I'm not being thorough enough. You know, Brian wants to say, well, how are we going to do this? With the details of that. And then sometimes when I'm in an I, then I can use the other chart. This is really helpful information, isn't it? On the third page, how to relate, how to convince, and how to manage. If you want to relate to a D, regardless of who you are, you want to be direct. If you want to relate to an I, you need to be enthusiastic. If you want to relate to an S, be relational. If you want to relate to a C, you be factual. If you want to relate to them, if you want to convince them, this is what you do. If you want to manage them, this is how you manage them. These are very, very helpful guidelines and generally accepted by those who are in the marketplace and in clinical fields and saying that this just kind of works cross-culturally as well as multiculturally. What are your thoughts about this? What is this saying to you about you? What are you learning? Are there any discoveries or ahas about yourself that you would care to share?
I would say that we've interacted with the disc profile multiple times, but these two pages are quick, bite-sized, and I feel like I need to keep these by my computer. As I'm interacting, emailing with my team, and emailing with my staff, or calling my staff, I feel like I need to make sure I'm focusing on these.
Make it into one sheet, put it on your desktop.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it is helpful to have someone else do this assessment for you also.
Yeah.
That thought crossed my mind last night as I was filling out scratching them out. I was so tempted to call in my wife to see, and I might just do that tonight, just to hide all my answers, to have her just go through and what her perception is of me, rather than my own self-perception. It'd be interesting to kind of discover that as well.
Yeah, and these kinds of things are safe tools. We're using the DISC this week. In August, when we come back, we're going to use the conflict styles assessment. And when a pastor or planter asks for me to be a reference for them, give them a recommendation, I tell them I'll be helpful, but I cannot be a current positive reference for you unless I have within the last year done one of my assessments. And my assessment is I use the DISC, I use the conflict styles assessment, and even if we did it a year and a half ago, I won't be, you know, a full reference for somebody unless I know where they are now, because people change. And so I use the DISC, and I use the conflict style assessment, and come up with a composite to see primarily, are you mature, are you self-aware, are you okay in your own skin? Are you okay being a high S in a church that wants you to be a high I? Are you okay being a high C when you really want to be a high D? Or whatever, are you okay in your own skin? And so not to assess people on, are you a certain thing, but are you aware of who you are you a mature version of who you are? And that's my take on things, is are you a mature person, stable, and are you well adjusted? Because God can put you in a place where they think they need a high I, but you can go in as a high C and be highly effective
Right.
if there's somebody else there, as Brian said, that is a high I or a high E. But again, for a coaching perspective, this is very, very helpful information to know how you are perceived by others because of who you are, and then to see how others are and figure out how to best and most effectively work with them. Other thoughts, questions, ideas? Other aha moments?
Are there particular personality styles or traits that lend themselves to being a better coach or being a better coachee?
Yes. An introvert is normally better than an extrovert as a coach, because an extrovert wants to talk and a coach needs to listen. A D can be a very, very effective coach, but a D has got to be careful that he's focused on the coachee and not the coach. Ds have to be careful that they're coaches and not mentors.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it's a matter, again, of being self-aware and mature. But introverts tend to be a little better coach. People who are careful, Cs, tend to be a very good coach because they realize that they don't have to be the expert. They don't have to have been there. They're not being a mentor. They're just helping someone that's maybe smarter than they are discover things and figure things out. In terms of Myers-Briggs, how many of you have done the Myers-Briggs test inventory?
Long time ago.
Yeah. I love the Myers-Briggs as well. The DISC, the Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders, there's a few accepted tools that are just fun to do every once in a while. And this is the kind of thing that we do in the Coach Mentor Triad meetings and so forth, is we kind of sharpen your skills and take you to the next level by having the kinds of discussions that you can't have with your coachee. So we try to take you to some places that will enable you to more effectively take your coachee to similar places in less time and with less conflict and trauma.
If we look at Paul.
I'm sorry?
If we look at Paul, is a high or high D?
Paul
Yeah.
was definitely a high DD.
High D.
He was an extrovert, high D. He was an INTJ. He's pretty easy to nail.
I thought you said he's an extrovert, but then you just said he's an I?
ENTJ, excuse me.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Remember who she is.
Yep.
So just a word of personal testimony. Learning these things about yourself, if this is a new process for you, it will radically change your ministry and bring you much, much more fulfillment in what God has called you. When you come to understand who you are, who your personality, and that will help you know who you need to bring around you, to serve with you, to be on your team. And it also gives you permission to be who you are, and it's okay. You don't have to try and fit yourself in a mold that someone gave you about this is what a planter should look like, this is what a pastor should look like, this is who you should be. It's be who you are, and once you understand who you are, it really frees you to find a lot more satisfaction and fulfillment in ministry and serving how God has made you to serve. So, just personal testimony.
Good word. Thank you. Well, thanks, guys. Brian, we're back to you.
Let's take a 15-minute break.
Yeah.